The Republican-controlled House has voted to delay two key parts of Obamacare, the individual and employer mandates. And in response, President Obama slamming the Republicans for refighting old battles. So what do GOP lawmakers have to say? House Majority Whip Kevin McCarthy joins us. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Thanks for having me.
Nice to have you. All right, today the president said more than 8.5 million Americans are getting rebates from their insurers this summer. True or false? Because that sounds like a pretty good number, at least if you're one of the 8.5 million.
Well, I always firmly believe, look how much insurance cost has been risen. Everybody's insurance cost is rising, so I don't see anybody getting a rebate or something cheaper in the long run.
So you think the 8.5, is that just fuzzy math, or is some people, are some people benefiting from this health care? Costs going down for anybody?
Well, the majority are hurting because one thing that you'll find, even if Obamacare goes into effect and is there for 10 years, the GAO office has studied it, and they said there'll still be 30 million Americans uninsured. So it will not solve the goal that it set out to be. And think of this. The president, first in a blog post right before the 4th of July, says he wants to postpone employers' mandate.
Well, let me talk about that, because I tell you, I didn't like that very well, because I thought that was sort of a sneaky way to do it. And I also am very suspicious, maybe it's just me, that they've known for quite some time that the employer mandate was not going to be able to go into effect in January for whatever reason, and that sort of the sort of sneaking it in during the July holiday when all the journalists are off sunning themselves or whatever they do. I didn't like that. Do you have any information that there was any discussion at any time preceding July that they were going to postpone it?
Not at this moment, because when you take Secretary Sebelius and others who've been through numerous hearings inside Congress when they were asked, they would always say, we are prepared, Obamacare is going into effect, we're prepared to make it happen. Well, why is that the case? And all of a sudden they shift gears, put it on a time when people aren't paying attention. And where does the president have the power to pick and choose what inside a law that he wants to enforce? That is a fundamental.
Well, the other sort of thing that makes people reasonably suspicious is the fact that it won't go into effect. It's not particularly popular to a lot of businesses until after the midterm election, January 2015. So the suggestion is you don't want to put any of his Democratic colleagues in peril come midterm election. So that's also suspicious. But let me turn to what the House has done. The House has passed a bill now to delay not just the employer mandate that the president has now said that's going to be delayed, but also the individual mandate. And the president has threatened, I think, to veto both. But can he veto the employer mandate if at the same time he says that he doesn't want it anyway on January 14th? Does he veto something that he doesn't want anyway?
Well, we've got to get it through the Senate. But what's most ironic to me, the president says the Republicans are at this. I think he needs to look at the vote. This was a very big bipartisan vote. 35 Democrats joined with us on the employer, and 22 joined with us on the individual. And what I would say is, why is the president picking businesses over individuals? Aren't individuals just as important, if not more, than businesses? But that's what the president is doing. I think he's playing politics, one, that he heard from many Democrats who voted for this bill, that does not want to go before the voters and when it's being enacted and have to have an election. They're trying to postpone it, just as he postponed it after. But he didn't want to go into effect until after his reelection. All
right. Were you able to? How many Democrats did you peel off to vote with the Republicans to delay the mandate, employer and individual? Any?
35 in the employer, 22 on the individual. And how it worked is there were two individual votes, but at the end of the vote, both bills were tied together and sent to the Senate. So that is sitting in the Senate. And for the president to veto that or threaten that, this is one thing that he said he wanted on a blog post.
Explain to me, so let's say the Senate hypothetically agreed with the House and passed it and it's got sent to the White House. The president would veto it probably. So he'd veto, and we go back to what we just said a second ago. He'd be vetoing something that he'd already agreed to in order to veto the individual mandate.
Yeah, he was against it before he was for it. I mean, it makes no sense. It makes no sense what he even said today. There is a number of individuals, and not to be flippant, but remember, when we were debating Obamacare, then was Speaker Pelosi, and she always made the comment, you have to pass it to know what's in it. Now you're finding out a number of Democrats are finding what is inside it when they voted for it, and now they're very, very afraid, and they know that this is, look at Senator Max Baucus. He said it's a train wreck. He helped craft and vote for this.
Well, it'll be very interesting to watch, see what happens. Of course, there are a lot of people for it, a lot of people against it, and it's never stopped having a lot of controversy. Congressman, thank you, sir.
Thanks for having me.